The issue of performance-enhancing drugs, or PEDs, in baseball is anything but clear-cut. While no red-blooded baseball fan doesn't feel anger and disgust upon seeing Barry Bonds' tainted career home run total of 762, it is unclear if that anger is constructive or even justified. It's easy to take a tone of moral superiority, but the majority of the PED abusers in baseball did not have results anywhere near as flashy as Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, or Rafael Palmeiro. Most were players like Alex Sanchez or Jason Grimsley, players who were just trying to stay alive in a highly competitive field. American culture regardless turned this into a moral crusade leading to a witch hunt, turning the issue into a black and white, right versus wrong, and good versus evil struggle, ignoring the inherent complexities of the issue. This presentation will bring these overlooked portions of the PED scandal to the forefront by focusing specifically on the stories of Barry Bonds and Jim Parquet. The actions of and reactions to these players will illuminate how oversimplifying and demonizing players because of PED usage is in and of itself unethical, as it leads to a hateful mob mentality. Before doing so, I will note that, although a baseball player using PEDs is itself extremely unethical, the line between PED and acceptable supplement is itself hazier than people are generally willing to admit. Indeed, sports are intended to be a competition where each person stretches the limits of his or her own abilities to achieve victory. On the surface, then, it does not appear that PEDs are in conflict with that objective. After all, as Thomas H. Murray pointed out in his essay, The Coercive Power of Drugs in Sports, from the August 1983 edition of the Hastings Center Report, caffeine can be considered a performance-enhancing drug even though it is used widely by Americans, be it in coffee, tea, cola, or an energy drink like Red Bull. Would anyone feel betrayed if their favorite baseball player confessed to downing a pot of coffee before every game? What about creatine? Creatine is a supplement that many athletes use to increase muscle mass and to increase athletic function. Unlike other supplements, it is allowed and used widely and openly. In John Feinstein's Living on the Black, 2 Pitchers, 2 Teams, 1 Season to Remember, likely Hall of Famer Tom Glavine stated that creatine helped him recover quicker from the physical stresses of pitching. If creatine is acceptable, where is the cutoff? While there is certainly a difference between most PEDs and creatine, the mere presence of a blurred line between allowed and PED should be enough to foster sufficient doubt to prevent people from slipping into pack mentality and ultimately a witch hunt. This scapegoating was applied to Barry Bonds more than to any other player. In 2001, Barry Bonds hit 73 home runs at the age of 36, breaking the Major League record. That, in and of itself, is suspicious. The vast majority of players with long careers peak somewhere between ages 27 and 30, not 36. Maybe it was a fluke, an acceptable outlier, so to speak. After all, Ted Williams hit 38 home runs, tied for the second most in his career, in 1957 at age 38. That season, however, has all the telltale signs of being an acceptable outlier. His performances in seasons surrounding 1957 were in line with the expectations of a declining career. In the 3 seasons before and the 3 seasons after 1957, he never hit more than 29 home runs. Additionally, while hitting 38 home runs at age 38 was unexpected, it was certainly not beyond the scope of his prior peak. Bonds' performance fails both of those acceptable outlier criteria. Before 2001, the most home runs he hit was 49, making his 73 home run performance completely beyond anything he achieved before. Even more dubious was that Bonds' 2001 season was followed by 3 seasons where he hit 46, 45, and 45 home runs. A prolonged late 30s peak was virtually unknown to baseball hitters before the late 1990s. These facts, combined with the extreme changes to his physique, are, to borrow more terminology from my undergraduate statistics courses, enough for me to reject the null hypothesis. In short, his place in the record books is probably illegitimate. Despite that conclusion, he still has not been treated fairly by either the media or organized baseball. When he hit his record-tying 755th home run in 2007, Baseball Commissioner Bud Selig was in attendance. When the television cameras focused on him, he was sitting sullen and motionless in his chair, only to stand briefly, keeping his hands in his pockets. That response was blatantly immature and, to borrow reasoning from Joe Sheen's July 25, 2007 Baseball Prospectus article, A Failure of Leadership, turned an opportunity for profitable, positive marketing into an episode that further reinforced the negativity of the entire steroid scandal. Sadly, the general public probably supported Selig's attitude. Entrepreneur Mark Ecko purchased Barry Bonds' 756th and record-breaking home run ball and held a vote on www.vote756.com to determine the ball's final fate. 1. Give it as it is to baseball's Hall of Fame Museum in Cooperstown, New York. 2. Brand it with an asterisk before sending it to Cooperstown. Or 3. Send it up into space. As tantalizing as option 3 was, a plurality of 47% voted to brand the ball with an asterisk, a result reflective of a desire for blood rather than historical accuracy. And while the white-hot anger over Bond's probable steroid use will likely abate somewhat over time, that asterisk will forever serve as an embarrassing and petty relic of mob scapegoating. That act was not a manifestation of justice, it was a manifestation of hatred. As I said before, however, most PED abusers were not sluggers like Barry Bonds. Many were fringe players desperate to stay in professional baseball. The story of Jim Parquet, told in his July 23, 2009 Chicago Sun-Times article Why I Juiced, is an excellent illustration of the pressures many non-stars feel to use PEDs. In 2000, he had a successful year, describing it as the year that took me thousands of hours, failures, and sleepless nights to accomplish. During the playoffs, however, he injured his shoulder and it never fully recovered. In his words, work, work, and more work. Pain, pain, and more pain. And for what? A shoulder that gave me a 75 miles per hour fastball, a below-average high school curveball, and an ethos-like changeup that registered in the low 60s. He began to see his major league dreams slip away. He became concerned that he had no professional skills outside of baseball. His wife was expecting, and he was scared that he would not be able to provide for his family. In desperation, he ordered human growth hormone, or HGH, which at the time was not technically banned by Major League Baseball. He said, "It immediately made me sleep deeper. My skin became baby soft, and I could feel my workouts improving. It never gave me more strength or bulked me up, but it provided quicker recoveries. I began to throw harder because my shoulder felt no pain. I was able to withstand more throwing, creating a work environment that I had not experienced in 2 years. The negative thoughts of baseball ending were soon replaced with a euphoric sensation that I would resurrect my shattered career and be able to provide once again for my family." This effect did not last, however, and he rightfully decided not to take HGH again, both for his well-being and for his family's. Preemptively responding to people's criticisms of his decision, he said, "I have to ask you this, husband to husband, father to father, and man to man. What would you have done? You have a bleak future and a family to provide for. You are taking a substance that is not banned. You can live your boyhood dream. Millions of dollars, glory, and fame are there for the taking. If you take the non-banned substance, you can hold on to your job, a job that is all you have ever known. If you do not, you enter an unknown world with no known path to success." Additionally, he tried to get people to empathize with his ethical failings, saying, "For those of you who rightfully are disagreeing with my unethical decisions, have you ever done anything unethical or illegal in your life? My question does not take into account if you are caught or accused. Have you ever made a poor decision that compromised your integrity, ethics, or the law? Does that make you a bad person? Does it define you as a person? Is everything you ever did in your career now tainted?" In light of Jim Parquet's story, is it really appropriate to demonize baseball players who abuse PEDs? Imposing the confines of ethical perfection on professional athletes is no fairer to them than it is to expect it from anyone else. Unless one can look inside oneself and say, "I have never had any ethical transgressions," he or she should not expect that sort of ethical perfection from others. The act of expecting such is indeed unethical, as it is in conflict with the Golden Rule, which, regardless of one's religious or cultural upbringing, is an important guideline to how people should live their lives. Should PED abusers be penalized? Absolutely. Using PEDs is dishonest and unambiguously unethical. It is important, however, to put these actions in a broader context and keep judgments fair and, ultimately, ethical. While it is unfortunate that Barry Bonds ignored the impact his actions would have on the well-being of the game of baseball and on society as a whole, it is even more unfortunate what it illustrated about human nature. Society tried and continues to try to destroy him. The story of Jim Parquet, however, ends with a glimmer of optimism. While it is shameful that he risked his future health and the well-being of his family by using HGH, he ultimately made the right choice to stop and now lives a happy life and serves as a role model for others. Indeed, the eloquence with which he presented both his failures and the pressures that led up to them reveal that PED abusers in baseball are not evil incarnate. They are people. Ordinary people make big mistakes, and yet we are perfectly willing to forgive them. It is time that we extend that forgiveness to baseball players as well.